Good evening, everybody. Uh, Welcome to this webinar on recent advances in the treatment of autism, cerebral palsy, and other incurable neurological disorders. I am Dr. Alok Sharma. I'm director of the Neurogen Brain and Spine Institute in Navi Mumbai and professor and head of neurosurgery at the Lokmanya Tilak Municipal General Hospital. So, why are we all here today? We are here because all of us have special needs children, children who we love more than our own lives. And these are children who, because of some disorder or dysfunction of the brain, have either autism or cerebral palsy and are not independent, aren't able to go to school, and can't live their full lives. And we all have been to various doctors and have been told one thing only, that there is no cure and there's no solution for these conditions. And I'm here to tell you that is no longer true. That modern medical science and research technology has come up with solutions that can possibly help our children. So the whole new concept is to use a multitude of treatments which combine cell therapy using stem cells, neurorehabilitation, which involves occupational therapy, speech therapy, behavioral therapy, etc., and integrative oxygen based therapies. With this combination of stem cell therapy, rehabilitation, and oxygen based integrative therapies, we can repair the damage to the brain and bring our children back to a near to normal life. So I show you this picture. On the left hand side, there is this is a fracture of the leg. And I ask you, if we or anybody we know had a fracture of the bone like this, would we give physiotherapy on a broken bone? We would not, right? What we would do is we would fix the bone. An orthopedic surgeon would fix the bone, and we would give physiotherapy on a fixed, repaired bone. But when it comes to our special needs children, this is a scan of a child with autism showing brain damage. Everything that's blue is brain damage. We give rehabilitation on this brain damage. We expect our children to get back normal function when their brain is damaged like this. Now, what if we could go rehabilitation on a repaired brain? You can see the green, that is normal brain, in the same child. So if we could give rehabilitation on this, wouldn't the results be much better? And I'm here to let you know that this is now possible. So the old thinking was that once the nervous system is damaged, it is incapable of regeneration. This is 150-year-old thinking. And all your doctors, colleagues, most people in the world still believe it. Once the brain is damaged, nothing can be done. However, that is no more true. And it is now believed that with cellular replacement and repair, you can bring about some degree of regeneration. So we are going to talk of three treatments: stem cell therapy, rehabilitation, and integrative therapy. I'll start with stem cell therapy first. So I believe stem cell therapy is a new science, a new technology, a new method of treatment that shifts us from a stage of hopelessness to one of hope. So what exactly are stem cells? So stem cells are cells which have the capacity to repair damage because they have the ability to divide endlessly, and also they convert into more specialized cells. So the word stem comes from the stem of a tree, and just like the stem of a tree excuse me, gives rise to branches, leaves, fruits, etc., there are some cells which can give rise to any cell of the body. So the word stem comes from the stem of a tree. And you can see from here, the stem, you have a branch, leaf, fruit, etc. There are some cells which can become any cell of the body. Those cells are called stem cells. So how do they work? The first quality of stem cells is the ability to multiply. So if you have a single stem cell, they can become into thousands or even lakhs of stem cells. Second is their ability to convert. So this is the most useful property of stem cells. That the same stem cell, a single stem cell, you can make it into a brain cell, or into a muscle cell, or into a heart cell, or any other cell of the body. So that is the unique special property of stem cells. They convert into whichever cell type we want, depending on where we put it. So this is the second property. And this is just, this is from our own research. This is not a picture from the internet. What you see here around, this is what a stem cell looks like. And we showed in the laboratory that these stem cells are convert into these. These are nerve cells. Can you see? These are neurons, and they are connecting to each other. They are actually connected to each other. So we first proved over 10 years of research that stem cells have the capacity to convert into nerve cells. All right. So this we know. We know from our own experimental work. They also release certain positive chemicals. These are called growth factors, and these chemicals have a tremendous healing power effect on the brain. And they also improve the blood supply. So where there is less blood supply to begin with, when stem cells reach there, there is an increase in blood supply. So all these four properties, the ability to divide, the ability to become any cell type, the ability to release growth factors, and the ability to improve the blood supply, this results in repair of the damage in the brain. So there are different types of stem cells. You can get them from, you can get the stem cells either from the patient itself, or you can get them from another donor. So there are different types of stem cells. Broadly speaking, you can have stem cells that you get from the embryo. So these are, so when life starts, when the mother's sperm and mother's egg and the father's sperm, come together, it becomes a fertilized egg. So when the father's sperm fertilizes the egg of the mother, and then this then divides, it becomes 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. And on the 5th day of life, this is a bundle of a grape-like bundle of cells called blastocyst. And from this, the whole body is formed. Our whole body was formed. On the 5th day of life, all of us were a bundle of embryonic stem cells. So we all began life as a bundle of embryonic stem cells, and from that, our entire body was formed. So these are a very strong kind of stem cells, but however, there are a lot of ethical issues about its use, a lot of possible medical complications. So we do not use embryonic stem cells. I want to specify it because all the negative things that we hear about stem cells, they're about embryonic stem cells. So we do not use embryonic stem cells. Then we can also get stem cells from the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord is the cord that connects the mother and child at birth. And if this has been saved during, pregnancy, just after pregnancy, one can actually use these, but very often this has not been saved. We also get stem cells from the child itself. The bone, our bone, in the center of our bone is a liquid called bone marrow. And this bone marrow is rich with stem cells. It's got millions of stem cells. So we prefer to work with adult stem cells. They are called adult, but they occur in children as well. And these stem cells are basically stem cells from the own body, not from the outside, from the child itself. From the bone, you can actually get stem cells, and you can use these. And the last type is what is called induced pluripotent stem cell. This is only in a research stage, where the outside is adult and the inside is embryonic. Now, I took some time to explain this to tell you that stem cells are of different types. And very often you have people criticizing stem cells. All that is about embryonic stem cells. Adult stem cells are very simple and very safe to use. We use adult stem cells because they are safe, they don't form tumors, they don't get rejected by the body. You can get them through a single needle prick. There is no surgery involved in it, and there are no ethical issues about its use. Now, that is from where we get stem cells. Now, how do you put the stem cells? So that's the other beauty. You don't need an operation to put the stem cells. They can be injected through a needle, just a needle. So, here is a needle with which you can inject into the lower spine, into the fluid in the spine, which then takes it to the brain. This is called intrathecal. This is our preferred method of treating. But there is no surgery in this, just, a simple needle prick. We can also give it intravenously, we can give it intramuscularly, intraarterially, intranasally, etc. All these methods are through a needle prick. So that's the one beauty of stem cell therapy. There is no surgery involved, just a needle prick. I'll talk about more later. So basically, stem cell therapy or regenerative medicine is the use of healthy, good cells to replace the bad or damaged cells. That's simple. We take good cells, replace the damaged cells. So this is a scan of a child with autism. You can see the blue. If you put stem cells, the blue disappears. So what's the scientific base of stem cell therapy? Well, the highest recognition in the field of science and medicine is the Nobel Prize. And three times in 15 years, 1990, 2007, 2012, the Nobel Prize has gone to stem cell research. So the highest recognition in medicine, three times has been given to stem cell research. And what we use, stem cells in the bone marrow, this got the Nobel Prize in 1990. Okay, this was a long time ago. So what's the scientific base of the work that we do at Neurogen? So all our work is published in scientific journals. We have over 100 scientific papers, 16 in autism, 15 in cerebral palsy, 18 in muscular dystrophy, etc. Now, why is this important? This is important because when our work is published in scientific journals, it is called peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed means somebody outside of us has studied our data, validated its scientific content, its medical content, its ethical content, and then allowed it to be published in their journal. And we don't have one or two journals. We've published papers in over 100 journals. So this is very important because wherever you decide to do stem cell therapy, the one question you have to ask your doctors is your work published in scientific journals? Because once it's published in scientific journals, it has got credibility. Okay, because that data has been reviewed by outsiders and they have authenticated it. So just to repeat that, we have over 100 scientific papers. Apart from scientific papers, medical textbooks have published chapters on stem cell therapy. So this is a book, Recent Advances in Autism. They have introduced a chapter, Stem Cell Therapy in Autism Spectrum Disorders. And this is an international textbook. It's got international authors from all over the world. And when they decided who should write this chapter, they invited us. So you can see that we have written this chapter in this international textbook on stem cell therapy in autism. In this book on cerebral palsy, this is a European textbook by Intec. Again, they introduced a chapter, Stem Cell Therapy for Cerebral Palsy. And again, all the other authors are from across the world, but this chapter they asked us to write. This is a book on physical disabilities, and the chapter Stem Cell Therapy for Pediatric Neurological Disorders is again written by us. Here's a book on muscular dystrophy published by Avid Science, and the chapter Stem Cell Therapy for Muscular Dystrophy is again written by us. So in medical textbooks now, not only are they introducing chapters on stem cell therapy, but most often when international editors are looking at who should write this chapter, they invite us to write it in view and recognition of the large amount of pioneering clinical work that we have done. The government of India at the highest level is very supportive of stem cell work. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, when he went to Japan, he actually visited the stem cell laboratory of Professor Yamanaka, who won the Nobel Prize in stem cell research. It's not very often that prime ministers on their overseas travel visit a stem cell laboratory, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi did that. In India as well, whenever he gets an opportunity, he visits stem cell facilities. This is him at the Bangalore Stem Cell Research Institute. I'm very honored and privileged that in a book that I have written, Sri Narendra Modi ji has written an introduction or a foreword. And this is me with him, presenting him a copy of that book. This is the chapter that we wrote. There's a book on muscular dystrophy written by me, and the introduction was written. It was a real honor to have him write an introduction for a book that I wrote. Now, this is a video of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Indian Parliament making a very passionate speech about stem cells.
तो जापान मेरे कार्यक्रम में मैंने एक कार्यक्रम किया जो वहाँ एक नोबेल लॉरेट साइंस की खेलता वहां को मिलने गया किया गया उन्होंने सेल के अंदर जो रिसर्च की है मैंने जितना पढ़ा था तो मेरे मन में आया कि शायद इनकी खोज हमारे काम हम गए तो वहां गए उनसे चर्चा की और बैंगलोर के हमारे साइंस इंस्टीट्यूट के बाद दिशा में हमारा काम हो रहा है कि सेल के द्वारा हमारे
So that was the Prime Minister of India talking in the Indian Parliament about stem cells. So let's look at how this treatment is done. That's the other beauty of this treatment. It's very, very simple. I repeat, there's no surgery involved. There are 3 steps. The first is we take a needle and put it into the bone, into the pelvic bone. This is the hip bone. Just above the hip bone is the pelvic bone, and we put a needle into it. This is a real picture. You can see from above. We go and put a needle here, and this takes about 15 to 20 minutes. We give local anesthesia so the child has no pain, and we give sedation, short-acting anesthetic for the child to sleep so the child doesn't have any problem, difficulty, or pain. In 15 minutes, this bone marrow comes out. Then we take this bone marrow to a laboratory where we run it through specialized machines and we separate the stem cells out of the bone marrow. And once we've done that, then once the stem cells are ready, we take a very thin needle and inject it into the lower spine. Why in the lower spine? Because the fluid in the lower spine will then carry to the brain. So the whole procedure has only 2 injections. With one we take out and with one we put. There is no cut, there is no stitch, there is nothing at all that is invasive, just 2 needle pricks. And what we are putting in the child is the child's own cells that you have taken from the child's healthy bone, just filtered them, separated the stem cells, and then we inject it through a simple needle. So let's see a small video of how this is done. So here's the bone marrow. You can see the bone marrow coming out. And this is in the laboratory. We run it through various machines like centrifuges. The stem cells are separated. They are very sophisticated machines that isolate them. And then here you are. This is the stem cells, and you can see we are injecting it into the lower spine. So we'll just see this video once again because it's important. So here is the child is sleeping. This is a bone marrow coming out. We take this bone marrow, put it through machines, separate the stem cells, and then with a very thin needle, we inject it back. So that's it, 2 needle pricks and the child's own cells being put back into the child. That's again just to show you, this is the bone marrow aspiration, that's the stem cell separation, and that is the injection. So now today we are going to discuss the role of stem cells in 4 conditions: autism, cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, and muscular dystrophy. These are 4 conditions that involve children. So we will not discuss our results in adults. We are using stem cells in adults as well for stroke, motor neuron disease, etc. But today's talk is about children. So what is autism? It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. It was first described only as recently 1943. Normally diagnosed in the first 3 years of life. We don't refer to it as autism anymore. We call it a spectrum disorder. So we classify it as either mild, moderate, or severe. And boys seem to have it 4 times more than girls. Now, what is surprising is the incidence of autism is just rising and rising and rising. In 2004, it was 1 in 166. And in 2020, it has become 1 in 54. Okay, 1 in 54 newborn children have autism today. And this number doesn't seem to be reducing over the last 15, 20 years. It's completely gone up and up, which means that there are 70 million people on the spectrum in the world. 70 million people have autism, which, by the way, is 1% of the world's population. So 1% of the world's population today has autism. These are figures and facts. So there is something really wrong that the numbers are rising so rapidly. The main problems in autism are those of communication, social interaction, as well as certain repetitive behaviors. Now, what is new? I mean, why am I taking this webinar? So 2 new things have happened. One, we have a much better understanding of autism. We now have new sophisticated scans called PET-CT scans and functional MRI. We can look into the brains of these children and we can identify what parts of their brain are not working. So for the first time, we have the technology to do that. And secondly, we have the ability to correct the damage that is using stem cells. So what is new is that we can study the brain better, and what is new is that we can repair the damage that we see. So this is a scan, PET CT scan. It's a color scan which shows you the blue part is damaged. Whatever is blue is damaged brain. The darker the blue, the more the damage. So here you can see this brain damage, and we have seen this. We've got now a little over 3,000 patients. Every child of autism, every single child of autism had this blue over here. And we happen to do this in some normal children. Not a single normal child had this. So now we know for a fact which parts of the brain are not functioning in autism. And this research of ours is published in a very prestigious journal. It's called the World Journal of Nuclear Medicine, where we've actually published the baseline pattern and what are the age-related changes that happen in the brains of these children. So the work of our research is published in this journal. What about the management of autism? So the last 10 years, a lot of change. Earlier, it was just to do rehabilitation, but now apart from rehabilitation, we believe there are a lot of other things. The role of diet, the role of chelation, hyperbaric oxygen, biomedical, neurofeedback, and stem cell therapy is one new addition to this whole armamentarium. And so in autism, we believe that the treatment is multidisciplinary. You have to do all the rehabilitation. We will require behavioral therapy and speech therapy and occupational therapy. So all these things are a must. But if we add other things to it, we may just be able to start reversing autism and get our children back into a normal life. So that was a little bit about what are stem cells. We will now look very briefly on what are the different types of rehabilitation. Then we will discuss our results with stem cells before finally discussing a little bit of integrative therapy. So there are different types of rehabilitation. One of the ones that is most useful is ABA, which is applied behavioral analysis, which functions on the premise that for every behavior, there's something that antecedes it and there's a consequence. And if you can modulate that, you can modulate behavior. So this is how behavioral therapy is given. It's given by a psychologist. So we do ABA at our institute. Then there's occupational therapy, which has been the mainstay of management of autism. And occupational therapy has got different components. There is the activities of daily living. There's play therapy, social skill training, cognitive behavioral therapy. So there are various therapies that have to be done in occupational therapy. And this has a very, very important role. So without occupational therapy, we are not going to be able to get our children back to normal life. Then there's sensory integration therapy, which is a specialized form of occupational therapy. And this helps in children who have sensory issues. We need a special room for that. So this is our SI, sensory integration room at our hospital. Then there's speech therapy, which again has a very important role, especially because almost all these children have speech-related disorders. And that is how speech therapy is done at our institute. Physiotherapy. Now, it was earlier believed that these children do not have any physical problem, and so they don't need physiotherapy. But what we are finding is that they do. They have problems with their gait, and they have problems with their postural stability, and with their tone, and their clumsiness of certain movements. So we have now started, actually integrating physiotherapy as well into our rehabilitation program. So this is just to show you how physiotherapy is done. Then there is aquatic therapy, and aquatic therapy has a lot of use. I think aquatic therapy is something which is not being used enough. Aquatic therapy is not swimming. People think aquatic therapy means going to the pool and swimming. No, aquatic therapy is rehabilitation in water. It combines the principles of physiotherapy and occupational therapy, and it is done in water. And because it's done in water, the results are dramatically different. It has a lot of improvement in posture, coordination, body control, various sensory issues, social skills, cognitive affairs, attention, toleration. The sleep patterns improve dramatically, and there's a reduced hyperactivity, etc. So this is aquatic therapy at our institute. We have a special aquatic therapy department, and these kids benefit a lot from this aquatic therapy. Then there are art-based therapies, and there are a whole lot of them. And this is just to show you how you can have music therapy and art therapy and drama therapy, and a combination of all these, helps the kids. Then there are other treatments like chelation, TRS detox, etc. Then there are supplements like vitamin B12, B6, omega C, omega 3, vitamin C, omega 3, DMG, inulin, prebiotics, etc. So there are all these supplements which have to be used judiciously. You don't use all of them in every patient. You judiciously, do blood levels. You find, what is deficient, and then you correct the issues instead of just blindly giving patients these drugs. Diet is a very, very important because there are foods to eat and foods to avoid. Foods with sugar, additives, pesticides should be avoided. Prebiotics, probiotics, ketogenic, gluten and casein-free diet, these are useful. Ketogenic diet is one which is high in fat, has just enough protein and low carbohydrates. So the question is, with all this, are we doing enough? And the answer is no. Despite all the therapy that there is, we aren't, really doing enough. Because these children aren't able to go back to normal schools. They don't get back their speech. They still have behavioral and social issues. So to correct that, we now have available in the field of medicine a new treatment, stem cell therapy. So this is our data from, this is about data from 700 patients, although we have now done more than 3,000. But the data is analyzed for this, and almost 90% of the kids, 89.2%, have shown improvement. Now, the interesting thing is here, if you see in the graphic that the green is 33.6, these are significant improvements. That means these kids no more have autism. Their autism has been reversed. They're going to normal schools, they're going to colleges, they're working. That's about 33% of our patients. 29% have a moderate improvement. That means they become independent but still have some bit of autism. 25% are still dependent, they are mild, and 10 to 11% do not improve. Now, what we have found is an age correlation. So all the kids before 11, actually that is before puberty, they were in this group of significant improvement. Between 10 to 20, there was mild to moderate, and more than 20, we had, majority of no improvements, which means that the earlier you do the treatment, the more chances are that you will remain in this group of significant improvement. The later you go, you start going down. So, I'm a responsible doctor. I'm director of the institute and professor at the medical school. On what basis can I say that stem cell therapy works for autism when all your doctors are saying it doesn't? So there are two things I need. I need statistical significant data, and I need objective proof. So I'll just share some of that with you. So this is, there's something called statistical analysis, by which, there is something called, statistically significant numbers, and this is done by comparing an average before and an average later. So the CGI score, this is a score which is used in autism. Now, if you take all the patients before the treatment and take their average or mean, it's 4.5. And the same thing after 6 months later, it is 3. Big difference. And then you do a mathematical calculation, you show that it is significant. So also for the ISA scales. The ISA scale is the Indian score for autism. And this is also, when you take the average of all the patients before stem cells, then take an average after stem cells. And if it is significant, then you can say that it works. So this is the mathematical stuff. And here is, social relationship, emotional response, speech, behavior. Again, an average before, after, average before, after. And in all these categories, there was a significant improvement. Now, this is the most important slide of my talk, the most important slide. So you need to see it carefully. Above is the brain scan of a 5-year-old child with autism. There are different sections. You're seeing the same brain at different angles. This is from the top, this is from the front, and this is from the side. And you can see the blue here. This is the brain that is, malfunctioning, functioning less, weaker brain, maybe partially damaged brain. Now, in 3,000 children, we have seen that all the children have this kind of thing. All right. Now, this is before, and this is the below. You see afterwards. You can see that the damage has gone. You can see the entire damage has more or less disappeared. So this is the proof that autism can be reversed. This is the proof. This is objective proof. All right. Here again, you can see the damage before and you can see the damage afterwards. No, it's completely gone. You can see the blue before and blue afterwards. Here again above, a child with autism, you can see the blue damage before and you can see after stem cells, the damage is completely gone. So this is objective evidence. Then some people question us, well, we do the scans at 6 months, but how do you know it doesn't come back? How do you know the blue doesn't come back? So in a few patients, we did this year after year. This is 2012. You can see the damage. In 2013, it's less. And in 14, it's much less. So we not only we know that stem cells reduce the damage, we also know that this is sustained over a couple of years. The damage keeps on getting reduced over a period of time. So the world's first scientific paper, the world's first scientific paper on stem cells in autism came from India, and it came from us. I'm very blessed that I was the author of the world's first paper on the role of stem cell therapy in autism. And the second paper came from China, and the third paper from Italy, and the fourth and fifth paper from Duke University in America. So this is something where we are leaders. We were the first to publish this work. And we have 16 scientific papers after that. So we not only do we have the world's first scientific paper, we have 16 papers after that. Now, we actually have videos from one child from each continent, one child from America, one child from UK, Europe, one child from Asia, India, three boys, 3 5-year-old boys from Africa, triplets, and one girl from Australia. But for want of time, we won't see all of that. We'll just see one or two videos. Let's see the one from America. So here's a child who was 10 years old from Kentucky, USA. His father was a cardiologist and his mother was a nurse.
Started to lose non-vocabulary. Right around 18 months to the age of 2 years, he just fell backwards.
He would flap like that, and he would walk on his tiptoes, look at the wall, and be talking to the wall. He had problems with eye contact. He never looked us straight in the eye. He had problems with his speech. Some research and found out about it. They questioned that I had in my mind was what is there for others, and I could not come up with a good answer. And I said, we have to do it.
You start seeing their eye contact, the difference in communication. Were not active, were warm. There was activity there. The man has gone from a lifelong reading level to a 7th grade level.
This is amazing. From a 3rd grade reading level to a 7th grade reading level in 5 months. Now he's getting all A+. He's stopping in his class. A child with autism who could not speak is now in a normal school and topping in his class. So that's the miracle. That's what is possible with stem cells. So that was a child from America. Now, I'd like to share with you a video. I know as parents, most of you have one child with special needs, and you know how difficult and challenging it is. Now I'm going to show you a video of a mother of a family where there were triplets, 3 boys, and all 3 of them had autism. So this is a family from Nairobi, Kenya, where 3 triplets, 3 boys, they all had very severe autism.
If I did, for sure, I knew that they should be doing that. Children had this behavior of disappearing in front of the
was very traumatizing. First of all, we didn't understand what autistic means. A lot about autism. I did have fear. They could have. And then we take out the bone marrow. This is most unpredictable. The process already for 10 meetings in order to do the lower back. Inject the stem cells if they don't have a fighting fluid. So all the way up to the way. But it has taken probably years to be accomplished in my son. In like 8 months' time, we've really been able to come very far. They used to defecate on their clothes, but now they can use the toilet. We've seen a lot of improvement in terms of the sleeping. That's what they're used to. Sleeping used to be a problem before, but at the moment, he's taken to bed, takes a few minutes, and he's asleep. See my son's cycle. He's trying to make them understand what it is to play the thing. When they arrive to check the flight, okay? In the shop. Where is the shop? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to give you time for what? I can see changes. I can touch. I can feel. I can smell. Until my children get well.
So these kids are doing amazingly well. This movie was made some time ago, and one of these three is completely normal. The other two are almost there, and it's really amazing to see these kids improve. And the last video is one of a child from India itself. So he was very hyperactive. He had very poor understanding.
Certainly was my first child, so I was very excited about how he would be. But when I came to know that my child has a problem, it shocked me and I wondered why had this happened. Child had that behavior. It has been 2 months since Shantanu stem cell therapy. There have been many changes and many improvements. His hyperactivity has reduced drastically, and his attention span has improved a lot. He sits patiently in one place. He has started coordinating with his sister very well. He plays with her very affectionately. We are glad we took the decision to give him stem cell therapy. It has been 6 months since the stem cell therapy. Shantanu is showing a lot of improvement. His hyperactivity is almost as good as
hyperactivity.
His handwriting has become much better. His eye contact has also become better. I have never seen Shantanu dancing, but now he takes a keen interest in dancing. He also likes to listen to music. He can now fold clothes. Earlier he was not able to fold even a handkerchief, but now he can easily fold blankets. He helps me in cutting vegetable and in cooking too. Goes to the market stall for purchases. He passed his 10th grade.
He passed 10th standard, is now studying in college.
There have been improvements in many other aspects as well. For example, his emotional intelligence has also increased. Now he answers very efficiently. Calls me mother. Now he takes tuition from
Very
other
important. He's taking tuitions of others. He now takes tuitions for deaf children. Now, can you imagine a child who could not speak is today taking tuitions for deaf children? So that's the miracle of stem cells. So now we will get on with the next topic, which is cerebral palsy. Now, in cerebral palsy, there's damage to the brain, but the problems that you see are more of movement. In autism, they are more of the mind. In cerebral palsy, they are more of the body. Depending on where the damage is in the brain, they are classified in different ways, and it could be one half of the body, or just the legs, or the whole body. So these are the different classifications of cerebral palsy. The damage, as you can see here, is very different. In autism, you saw it was a much lighter color blue. Here it is darker, so it's a more severe damage. There are some treatments to reduce the spasticity, to reduce the convulsions, etc. There are some surgical procedures where you can cut a nerve, do rhizotomy for spasticity, or there are some orthopedic procedures to release contractures, etc. But none of these take care of the main problem. They only, give partial relief in that area, which also very often the problem comes back. So this is the reason why stem cell therapy is useful in cerebral palsy. So these are our results. This is our data. And you can see that 20% of the kids had a significant improvement. That means they come close to normal. 41% had a moderate improvement. That means they became partially independent. 30% mild, and 9% did not improve. So overall, 91% of the children benefited. And here is a scan on the left-hand side before. You can see the brain damage, and you can see the same child 6 months later, and almost all the damage is gone. So even in cerebral palsy, even in severe damage like this, the stem cells can take care of the damage. Here you can see the damage is on both sides, and this is before and afterwards. Stem cells, you can see it is much reduced. Our work is again published in the scientific journal. It was not the world's first in autism. We published the world's first in cerebral palsy. Somebody had published before us. But we have a very landmark paper, a clinical study of bone marrow cells for cerebral palsy, a new frontier. We have several other papers as well after that. And here's a video of a child from Nairobi, Kenya. Severely, he was wheelchair bound, could not use his hands, could not move his hands and legs at all. Totally wheelchair bound, spastic. And you can see, after the treatment, he's able to stand. He can use his hands. He can take off and remove his shirt. This was impossible before. He's actually putting books into a bag. He can, charge his mobile phone. He's able to stand, which was not possible before. Open the fridge, take out a bottle of water, open and drink it. All this was impossible before. Now you can see the difference from being totally wheelchair. Now he's walking independently. All right. So a completely wheelchair bound child who could not use his hands and legs, could not stand, is today independent for all his daily activities. He uses his hands to do everything in the house. He can take out things from the fridge. He can, put things for charging, and he's able to walk. He no longer needs a wheelchair. So this is the magic of stem cells in cerebral palsy. Then we have intellectual disability. This was earlier referred to as mental retardation, and now we call it intellectual disability. We don't call it mental retardation anymore. And here the problem is really a global deficiency in cognitive skills. And this is the kind of damage that you see. That it's lighter blue than cerebral palsy, but a bit more widespread than autism. And these are our results. We have an 84% success rate, and you can see 20% of the kids have a significant improvement, 25 moderate, 39 mild, and 13% do not improve. The functions that improve include cognition, remote memory, problem solving, relationships, social innovation, and toilet training. And this is again the world's first scientific paper on stem cells and intellectual disabilities written by us. This is an open label proof of concept study of intrathecal bone marrow cells in intellectual disability. So this is again a landmark paper, the first in the world. And this is to show you before. You can see this, the light blue above is the damage in the brain before. And below, you see after stem cells, the damage is almost completely disappeared. So this is objective proof of the fact that the brain damage in intellectual disability can be reversed with stem cells. And, these are 5 other papers that we published. And here is just a video of somebody with ID. She had a whole lot of issues. And now you can see afterwards, there's improvement in all those aspects. Whether it's, you can see before how it's difficult for her to copy it. Afterwards, you can copy it so fast. And the overall coordination is improved. And now and what actually one of them. So she won the second prize at a cooking competition, plays sitar, Bharatanatyam, and she's now working in an NGO in the catering department. So from being totally dependent, she's now actually earning and making a living. The last subject is muscular dystrophy. Now in muscular dystrophy, the muscles, they sort of start degenerating. And this is, just to show you at 5 years, this is a MRI of the leg, and the gray is normal. So you can see at 5 years it's gray. Then over the years, the gray becomes less and less and less. And by about 60 or 20 years, it completely disappears. So here you can see before at 5 years and at 21 years, there is no muscle. Now, all these children in a disease called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, every single one of them dies before 25. Every single one of them. There's a 100% death rate. But we are able to save their lives, and our kids are living beyond 25 and 30 and 35. So in muscular dystrophy, it is life-saving. These are our overall results. You can see 85% of our kids improve, of which only 4.5 had a very significant improvement. 35 had a moderate, 20 mild, 14 remained the same. But you should remember that if they had not got stem cells, all of them would have died. All of them. So here we have saved their lives with stem cell therapy. And if we've had these improvements, that's like extra. That is like, but mainly we've saved their life. And here is a comparative study with patients treated with stem cells and patients not treated. So the blue is patients not treated. This is called a control group. And this is the deterioration, you can see. And in the patients who are treated with stem cells, they stabilize like this. So big difference in the treated patients versus the untreated patients. And this is an MRI before showing white, all fat, and after stem cells, it has become gray. And here you can see this is something called EMG. It shows the muscle contraction. It's very weak before stem cells, and after stem cells, you can see it has become very strong. And we have 18 scientific papers on stem cells and muscular dystrophy. Here's a child from America, from California. He came to us. He was totally wheelchair bound. He could barely crawl, and it was impossible for him to stand and walk. This is before. He couldn't even stand. He had not stood for 2 years before he came to us. He could just crawl. And after the stem cells, you can see he started standing first. He had not stood for 2 years. And from standing, he started walking, initially with a walker and a little movement. They look little, but you have to remember that he had no movement at all. And there he is moving with the parallel bars with less heavy support. And from there, gradually now he is walking indoors independently. There's no support. He's got no stick, no walker, nothing. This is indoors, and now you can see that he's walking outdoors. He did so well that, President Obama, the President of the United States, President Barack Obama, invited him to the White House. That's him with the White House to, learn about his improvements. So that was amazing, that the President of the United States should call him to see him. So one question that in your mind will be that all these results are great, but how safe is this treatment? And here's the really good news. This is a very, very, very safe treatment. We've done now more than 10,000 patients. Yes, more than 10,000 patients, and we've never had a patient with a major adverse event, complication, deterioration or anything like that. There are a few minor adverse events, like 3% of the kids who have epilepsy to begin with, they may get epilepsy later on. 10% of the patients get a little headache for 1 or 2 days after the procedure, but that's when you're still in the hospital, never back home. A few may have a little pain, a little vomit or nausea and stuff like that, but these are minor, reversible. There is no major side effect. So, I can say with reasonable assurance that there is no way that your child can actually deteriorate after the stem cell therapy, because in 10,000 patients, nobody has deteriorated. Now, the last part of our treatment is, so I spoke to you about 3 treatments: cell therapy, rehab, and integrative therapies. I spoke to you about stem cells. I showed you briefly about rehab. And now we come to integrative therapy. So integrative therapies are basically oxygen-based therapies that promote oxygen supply all over the body. And so these are all machines, they are equipment, and there's no surgery or anything else. You just go in and out of various machines and equipment. So first, let's refer to hyperbaric oxygen. Most of you know it as HBOT. So this is basically a chamber, and the door opens, you go inside, and oxygen, 100% oxygen is given at more than 1 atmosphere pressure, between 1.5 and 2. And you go in with your child. So this is the hyperbaric machine at our hospital. You can see the child is in with the father. So you go inside, there's a television, there are cartoons playing on it, and the kids really have a fun time there. They really enjoy it because they're there cozy with their parents and they're watching cartoon. You can shut it off and shut off the lights, and you can just go to sleep as well. So this is the hyperbaric machine at our hospital. So how does this work really? So let me explain to you. So this is a blood vessel. Above is a blood vessel. And in our blood, we have red blood cells. This is a red blood cell, and there are white blood cells. And there is the liquid in the blood. It is called plasma. Now, at normal atmosphere pressure, the air that we are breathing, in the blood, the liquid plasma doesn't carry any oxygen. The white blood cells don't carry any oxygen. Only the red blood cells, through the hemoglobin that they have, can transport oxygen. So no matter how much oxygen you take, only the red blood cells can carry. There's no oxygen anywhere else. But when you give oxygen under pressure, the oxygen goes into the fluid. So apart from the red blood cells, the oxygen is in the fluid. So look at the amount of oxygen here at normal pressure, only with the RBCs. And look here, the whole blood, the fluid in the blood is flooded with oxygen. And so oxygen goes to every nook and corner and cranny of the brain and the body everywhere else. And it's a tremendous healing impact. So the huge benefits of hyperbaric, it has a very beneficial effect on the body's immunity. It stimulates oxygen, it improves the metabolism at a cellular level, it increases the energy levels, reduces tiredness and fatigue, and it improves the overall function. So this is the benefits of oxygen therapy, hyperbaric, which we are now combining. So earlier, for first 12 years, we did only stem cells and rehab. Over the last year, we've incorporated this because we are finding that when we give hyperbaric oxygen and ozone therapy, the results come faster. The same results that took us 6 months, you're now seeing it at 3 months. Then we have the second thing is something called ozone therapy. So what is ozone? Ozone is oxygen, which is like normal oxygen is O2. There are just two, this thing, and here what you see is it is O3. So there's an additional molecule. Now this additional one is what we call the activated oxygen. So instead of O2, we have an O3. And what does it do? Well, what it does is, firstly, it's got a tremendous anti-infective potential. It kills all the viruses, bacteria, fungal infections. In fact, we've used ozone extensively during the COVID time. It reduces inflammation and swelling. It reduces the blood clots. It is an antioxidant. So there are tremendous, there are all these benefits of ozone, and basically we are using 100% medical, grade oxygen, and these are just to show you the changes that happen in the cells. So it's an oxidant, it's anti-inflammatory, it's anticoagulant, it's germicide. So these are all the different. There are different ways in which you can give it. It can be given through a chamber. You can give it through the ears. You can breathe it through the lungs. It can be given per rectum. So there are different ways in which ozone is given. Again, it improves oxygenation throughout the body. It also improves the gut health a lot because we give ozone uh, through the colon as well from below, and that cleanses the gut. So a lot of our children with autism have gut issues, and this will clean up those. Um, so these are the benefits of ozone. Again, improving the immune system, killing any bacteria, viruses, detoxifying the body, reducing the swelling. It has an anti-aging, increasing energy, and increasing oxygenation. Benefits. Then there is something called gut cleansing. So, there are a lot of children with autism have a lot of problem in our gut. Basically, we have good bacteria and bad bacteria. And when the bad bacteria, are more, you have the gut is not healthy. And after gut irrigation, you have a very healthy gut. So, there are different ways. Our intestines have a whole lot of bacteria, and some are beneficial, some are not. And the whole idea is to keep the good ones and to get rid of the bad ones. So this is the machine. It's called colon hydrotherapy. This is of course not used in smaller, very small children, but we have a simpler gut cleansing process, and this can be used in a little older population. We also have acupressure methods, which basically induces a state of relaxation. So we believe a lot in acupressure and deep tissue mobilizing. So it does a whole lot of things. It improves the blood circulation, self-soothing mechanisms. Then we give a lot of vitamins. These may be in the tablet form or injectable form because these are again very useful. Uh, then we have various other multi nutrient things like magnesium, calcium, zinc, selenium, all these vitamins. So we use for each child we use a different combination. So this is the institute where we do our work. The Neurogen Brain and Spine Institute is located in Navi Mumbai, India. We've treated over 10,000 patients from 70 different countries, from all the 6 continents of the planet. So from all the 6 continents, patients have come to us. That's our core team. Along with myself, there is Dr. Nandini Gopalchandran and Dr. Prerna Bare, who are the stem cell experts. Dr. Jacob is India's senior most neuro rehabilitation therapist, and we are, it's a privilege that he works with us and coordinates the whole rehab program. Dr. Himangi Sani is the doctor. She's actually from America originally. She did an MD and she was working in New York University. She developed a disease called motor neuron disease. It's a terrible disease. It kills 90% of people within 5 years. And she was told in America nothing can be done. She went to the best doctors, John Hopkins, everywhere. They said, no, you are not going to survive for more than a few months. But then she didn't give up hope. She came to India. She approached me. I did her stem cells. And she was told in America, you're going to live less than 6 months or so or whatever. And it's now 10 years after I treated her. She's still alive, well, and she's so good that she's working as the head of our research. So she's a living example in our own institute of the magic and power and miracle of stem cells. We believe a lot in quality control, so we have a lot of accreditations. We have a good laboratory and a good manufacturing practice certification. We are ISO certified. We have been certified by the European Medical Association, the EMA, for best medical practice. So this itself is a big honor. We have written a total of 16 books. We've received numerous awards, prestigious award like this Rose of Paracelsus Award from the Socrates Nomination Committee from Oxford, UK. The European Award for Best Practices from the European Society for Quality Research in Brussels. We've got the Best Stem Cell Therapy Center in the National Excellence Healthcare Awards in 2016 and 2018. The Honorable Minister gave us this award. To help you make the decision, we suggest that you visit our website. It's www.neurogenbsi. BSI is for Brain and Spine Institute.com. You can send us an email and you will receive a reply within less than 30 minutes. That's our response time. You could WhatsApp chat, audio, video call, or you could call at this number. You could set up a Skype interview with prior appointment. Once you've decided to take the stem cell therapy, we appoint a separate specific coordinator. There's one person who will guide you through the whole process of between your taking the decision to do the stem cells and coming here. So what happens when you come here? So when you come here, we arrive on a Sunday. On Monday, we do all the evaluations. On Tuesday, we do the stem cells. And Wednesday to Saturday, we have rehabilitation. Now, this was our standard package. Now we have a modified package. We have an extended 15-day stay in which instead of 4 days rehab, you get 10 days rehab. You also get 10 sessions of hyperbaric oxygen and 10 sessions of ozone therapy, etc. So basically, you can now choose between a 7-day program, which is only stem cells and rehab, or a 15-day program, which is stem cells, rehab for 10 days instead of 4, hyperbaric oxygen therapy and ozone therapy. So in conclusion, I say that adult or autologous stem cell therapy is a safe and effective treatment option. Now, please note, I'm saying safe before effective, because for us, safety is of paramount importance. So it's a safe and effective treatment option for autism, for cerebral palsy, and for the many other neurological conditions which do not have definite treatment so far.
Scientists believe that these tiny cells may have the potential to help us understand and possibly cure some of our most devastating diseases and conditions. To generate the severed spinal cord and lift someone from a wheelchair. To spare from a production and spare a child from a lifetime of needs. To treat Parkinson's, cancer, heart disease, and others that affect millions of Americans and the people who love them. Today, with the executive order I am about to sign, we will bring the change that so many scientists and researchers, doctors and innovators, patients and loved ones have hoped for and fought for these past 8 years. We will lift the ban on federal funding for promising embryonic stem cell research. There's no finish line in the work of science. The race is always with us. The urgent work of giving substance to hope and answering those many bedside prayers. Seeking a day when words like terminal and incurable are potentially required from our vocabulary.
So I showed you this video to show you that the world's two biggest democracies are India and America. And you heard the Prime Minister of India talk in Indian Parliament about stem cells. And now you're hearing the president of the former president of the United States talking about stem cells. So when the prime ministers and presidents of countries talk about stem cells, it's got to be something that has a social, a public value and usefulness. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. I am now open to questions. And what we will do is we will answer. So the way you can do this is you can ask questions and answers. And I'm going to answer the questions one by one. So the first question is from Delaney De Silva. It says, hi, doctor, thank you. Kindly seek your views on the below. If the child is currently undergoing homeopathy treatment and is okay if we decide to do stem cells, if not, at what point should we stop the treatment before doing stems? Also, should the homeopathy treatment be continued after the stems? And if yes, how soon after the stem cells? So first, let me answer this question. No, you do not have to stop the homeopathy. The beauty of stem cells is it doesn't come in the way of any other treatment. So please continue your homeopathy till you come here. Now, after the stem cells, what we recommend, and it's not mandatory, is that for a month, you do not take the homeopathy, but you can continue it after that. So the only reason why we stop homeopathy and Ayurveda for 1 month is we don't want any interference with our stem cells. But after that, you can. So there is no harm. So the answer to your question is yes, you can continue the homeopathy, and we will stop it for a month after the stem cells, but then you can recontinue. Next question from Delaney is, for a boy of 8 years with hyperactivity, hand movements, verbal but no conversational speech, lots of nonsense speech. Can we expect improvements? Absolutely. If he's 8 years old, the hyperactivity will respond quite well. The hand movements, verbal, but the no conversation speech will also improve. So what we have found is that when we do this treatment, in kids below 10 years of age, actually before puberty, we get the best results. So I think, at 8 years old, he will definitely have good results, and we should definitely do it before he becomes 10 years old, because the results after that are little lesser. At 8 years, you can expect miraculous results. So I hope I could answer your question, Delaney. The next question is from Susan Zakaria. Have you done RCT using controls to prove effectiveness of stem cell transplant? If anyone does as intensive therapy as you give parents after stem cell, they will definitely improve. How much over and above the improvement is attributed to your stem cells? So, Susan, we have done, like I showed you in our intellectual disability paper. In ID, we had done a controlled study. We've actually compared treated patients versus untreated patients, and we showed a dramatic difference in the treated patients as compared to the untreated patients. The same in muscular dystrophy. In autism, unfortunately, we tried to initiate an RCT where we had to randomize two patients, but the parents, would get randomized into the non-treatment, would just refuse. They would just get very upset and say, "No, we want the stem cells." And so we had to discontinue it because no parent wanted to go in the. Just to explain to other people who are hearing, what Susan is asking is there's something called randomized control trial, where in half the patients you do the stem cells, in the other half you can either do nothing, or you give a placebo. That means you just don't give stem cells, you give some saline or something. And we tried to do it, and the parents get very upset if you tell them that in half there's a 50% chance we'll give you stem cells, 50% chance that we will not give you stem cells. And so this had to be discontinued simply because nobody would want to participate in a trial like that. They said, either you treat my child or don't treat the child. So that's the problem that we faced, and we had got ethics approval for this, and we couldn't do it. Now, the thing is that you say that if anyone does as intensive therapy, they will definitely improve. Now, you have to understand that the children who come to us, they all have been through intensive therapy already before. Despite that, they do not have speech. Despite that, they have hyperactive behavior. Despite that, they are not able to go to normal schools. Despite that, they are not able to do jobs and be independent. Okay. After the stem cell therapy, combined with the rehab, okay, they are now able to get back speech. Their hyperactivity is under control. There's social, there's improvement in their social behavior. So we do not say that. We do not say stem cells compares to rehab. We say stem cells works with rehab. If you were there in the beginning of my lecture, I showed you, if a child has a broken bone, okay, a broken bone of the leg, will you give rehabilitation on a broken bone? I ask you, which parent will give rehabilitation on a broken bone? You will not, right? You will fix the damage by an orthopedic surgeon and then give rehab. But in our children with autism, we have shown for the first time that there is actually a damage to the brain. How many, I'm sure none of you have got PET CT scans done before. I'm sure none of you have been shown what damage is there. The first thing we do is we show you the damage. And what we are doing to our children is we are forcing them to do things on a damaged brain. It's like forcing a child who has a fracture to walk and run. It's not fair to the children. But when you repair the damage, and stem cells and only stem cells actually repairs the damage in the brain, because that's a biological healing. So with intensive care, there are improvements, but with stem cells and intensive care, you are able to reverse the autism. Yes, you are able to reverse the autism. So that's the difference between stem cells and not being stem cells. Then Susan's next question is, there are many causes of autism, including microdeletion and duplication. The same genetic anomaly will be there in the stem cells also. how does it then help the child? Do you do a detailed analysis before offering stem cell transplant to those with autism? All right. So let me tell you that you have to understand that there are many causes of autism. The causes can be, intrauterine. The majority of the time, it is something that happens at birth, maybe some degree of hypoxia. Sometimes there are things that happen after. You have children who at 1 or 2 years have normal speech and behavior, and suddenly they have a regression because of various things. And the list of causes is huge. Yes, there are some, micro deletion and duplication, but you need to understand, we are not repairing the genetic anomaly. All right. We are not fixing the genetic anomaly has caused brain damage. And what we are doing is repairing the brain damage. There's a difference between treating the genetic anomaly, which happens through gene therapy, which is not required because autism is not, as of just now, considered to be a purely genetic condition. There are some like Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Okay, that's a genetic problem. And even there, which is a pure genetic problem. And there we are able to save the lives of these kids. All the kids who would have died in their early 20s are now living beyond 30 after we have treated them. Because we are not repairing the gene problem. We are repairing the damage caused to the brain by the genetic problem. And all these children, the only problem is in the brain. The rest of their body is normal. Their skin is normal, their teeth are normal, their heart, their lungs, the kidneys, their bone, this is all normal. So the stem cells they have are also normal. We check it. We do a very detailed analysis. We have a flow cytometer, cell counter. We actually check the cells and before we put them. So we are injecting healthy, good cells. And the idea is to repair the damage. So that's what we are doing. I hope I was able to answer that question. Delaney says, hi, doctor. If a child is cured from autism or is substantially reduced following SCT, if a child is cured from autism or substantially reduced following SCT, is this for lifetime or can the autism come back after a few years? So we have been doing stem cell therapy for the last 13 years. I started in 2008. Like I said, we've treated 10,000 children, 10,000 patients in all, out of which 3,000 are of autism. And in not a single child has the autism come back. Now you have children, like I showed you in my graphic, 1/3, 33 who were completely cured. There were some who were moderately mild and some, 10% did not improve, those who were older. But once the improvement comes, it does not, autism does not come back. All right. So that is one thing you don't have to worry about. What the improvement can reach a point and stop, but it can never reverse. So whatever improvements are there to stay. Abhishek Pathak asks, what is the best age for taking SCT? So so what we have found is the earlier we do it, the better it is. So the youngest child we've done it is 18 months. And the oldest autism child we have treated is 38 years. This is autism. But otherwise, the youngest child we've treated is 8 months, which was a child of injury, a road traffic accident. And the oldest person we've treated is 84 years old. So age is not a limit. The best time, the earlier we do it, the better. Because the earlier you do it, the brain damage is less. The brain is more easily, is able to repair itself. So the answer to your question, best time, the earlier, the better. If you do it at 3 years, it is better than doing it at 5 years. If you do it at 5 years, it's better than doing it at 7 years, so on and so forth. Abhishek Pathak asks, age of my son is 4 years, 9 months, weight is 16 kilo, he has autism. Oh, well, 4 years is just the right time to do it. So 4 years is actually perfect. It's just right. Yes, if you had done it at 3 years, it would be better, but it's better doing it now as compared to doing it at 6 or 7 years. But 4 years is good. Deepak Soni says, sir, my daughter is autistic and hyperactive. She's 3 years old, 2 months old. What is the perfect age? Deepak, I answered the question for Abhishek. The earlier, the better. 3 years is a good time to do it. There is no perfect age. The earlier is better, but 3 years, I think it's a good time to treat your daughter. Then Deepak Soni says, is there any damage done in the spinal cord of the baby while taking or injecting stem cells? That's a very good question, Deepak. No, there is no damage at all. So let me tell you, the spinal cord actually ends at what is called the L2 level. There is the lumbar 1, lumbar 2, lumbar 3, lumbar 4, lumbar 5. So above L2, the spinal cord ends. we inject at L45. There is no spinal cord there. There's only fluid there. There's only fluid and there are some nerves which are exiting. So we do not touch the spinal cord. We are way below the spinal cord. We enter the fluid, not the spinal cord. So there is no chance whatsoever, ever of damaging the spinal cord because we are 2 levels below it. So the answer to your question is no, there is no danger of damage. Adrenal Pradhan says, how many HBOT sessions required after stem cell therapy? So we advocate a minimum of 10 sessions, 10 sessions of hyperbaric oxygen after stem cell therapy. So let me tell you, so earlier we used to, for first 12 years, from 2008 till 2020, 12 years, we were only doing stem cells and rehabilitation. And then, we've now, ever since we've added hyperbaric and ozone, we are finding that the results are coming faster. The results that we were seeing in 6 months, we are now seeing it at 3 months when we combine stem cell therapy with hyperbaric oxygen and ozone. So it's just a faster and a little better result. So 10 sessions of hyperbaric back to back in 10 consecutive days. Madhu Verma says, sir, my son got seizures after fever, even after low fever. He's got seizures twice in a month. Is there any neurological reason behind this? Doctor said it's due to fever. Yeah, so fever, if it's very high fever, that can cause, so in childhood, this is called febrile seizures because via high fever, it increases the activity of the brain and it can, cause seizures. So normally the answer to your question is, we would like to do an EEG to see, what is the abnormality in the brain in terms of electrical function. We'd like to do an MRI and we'd like to see particularly the area in the medial temporal lobes and see if there is a problem there. So in your case, I would like to do an EEG and an MRI to identify the problem, Madhu. There is an anonymous attendee who says, sir, what is the best age for stem cells? My son is 5 years. Till when can we do it? So 5 years is good. Like I said, anytime before puberty, that's before 10 or 11 years. Puberty is the time when the boy becomes a man, hair starts coming on the face, the sexual organs start growing. So what we found is you do stem cells before puberty, you get the best results. So at 5 years is a very good time to do it. Madhu Verma says, sir, more screen time can help autistic children's brain. So this is so there is this thing that screen time harms the brain. Actually, there's nothing to prove or disprove that. However, these children, they have a tendency to have more screen time. But what we are finding, that is before the treatment. What we are finding is once we do the stem cells and the brain damage recovers, they start spending less and less time on the screen. So all our parents tell us that post stem cells, they are spending much less time on the screen. Although we can't explain that, but that's the report that we get. Nisha Sinha says, we are NRI and we would like to know, is there any recurrent treatment required after SCT? So this depends on the type of damage there is. So if the damage, so we classify based on the PET scan. We do a scan, we actually show you, and these scans are in color and the damaged part appears blue. So even if you're non-medical, you can make out what's blue. All right. So if the damage is mild, so we classify the damage as mild, moderate, and severe. Now, if the damage is mild or mild to moderate, it just requires a single treatment and everything is fine after that. But if the damage is moderate or moderate to severe, then you have to come back to us at after 6 months. We'll repeat the scan. If all the damage is gone, then there is nothing more to be done. But sometimes in severe cases, there is a partial recovery and then we may have to repeat the stem cells. So we can't answer that question of yours till, we do your PET CT scan. Anonymous attendee says, how do we ensure that the stem cells transplanted go to the area of damage and bring pluripotent, do they not differentiate into other types of cells? So yeah, that's a very good question. So we've done a lot of research. Just to let you know that in 1998, I was in Denver, Colorado, understanding how fetal, those times they were called fetal stem cells, how they grow and how they are cultured. From 1998 to 2008, we worked in the laboratory where we grew all different types of cells and, in animals, and we put them and we studied them and we did their imaging. So earlier we believed that the stem cells go to the damaged area. And later on, through our experimental work in the laboratory, we found out the stem cells don't know where to go. The damaged areas, they pull the stem cells towards it. So the human body is amazing, only so if there is like damaged brain and non-damaged brain, and when the stem cells pass by the non-damaged brain doesn't pull them towards it, but the damaged one pulls the stem cells towards it. So all the stem cells, and we have shown this in animals, we've done scans and study on all of the cells are only around the damaged area. So we don't have to ensure, we just have to put it in the CSF and the damaged areas will pull them towards it. And so that's interesting. And they do not, if you inject them into the CSF, they do not differentiate into any other type. So what we have found is that when we put them into the muscles, the same cells, the same stem cells which we are using for autism in the brain, when we put them in the muscles, they become muscle cells when we put them in the muscles. Okay, but when we put them in the CSF in the brain, they all become all become neural cells, and this has been proven. In fact, I showed a picture in my lecture. Remember, to answer this question, I showed you a picture of our work, not a Google picture, our research, where we showed that the bone marrow stem cells, when we recreated the environment of the brain, we recreated CSF, they all became neural cells. They did not differentiate into any other cell type. Nisha Sinha says, my son is 9 years old and has mild autism. 9 years is good, Nisha, but you should do it because before he becomes 10, 11, before he has puberty, you should do it. If he has mild autism, he's 9 years old, we can expect excellent recovery. So I would strongly suggest that you do the treatment now, because in a year or two he will get puberty and will still improve after that, but the results a little less. So 9 years is good. An anonymous says, does SCT help children with macrophage activating syndrome causing severe GI issues and autism? We'll have to see some more details about this, but again, we have found that when we treat the autism, the GI issues gradually go away. So earlier we believed it is the GI issues that cause autism, but now what we are learning. So I have kids who come to me who, the kids who eat mud, there are kids who eat their own poo, there are kids who, will have an entire packet full of salt or chili and eat it. I had one child who would eat glass. Can you imagine? He'd break a cup and eat glass. And surprisingly, after the stem cells, this completely disappeared. It got resolved. And what we are now finding over the last 13 years that we've been doing stem cells is that the GI issues, they improve after we do the stem cells. So if you can, we'd like to know a little more details about the child, and we believe we can definitely help. So, all right, I think I have covered all the questions. Is there anything, anybody else has any questions? I'd be happy to answer them. Yeah. Okay, we have some other questions. Okay, Kritika Rajaraman says, how can you contribute that improvement shown in research data happens through stem cell therapy and not through interventions such as speech therapy and OT provided? Kritika, I answered that question earlier. You are saying that how can we say it is stem cells? See, the thing is, everybody who comes to us, they've already done the rehab, all right? They've done rehab and they go back to the rehab. We do rehab only for 4 days over here, and with all the rehab, they are not improved. Their speech are not improved, their behavior are not improved. After the stem cells, it starts improving. So let's say you've done 4 or 5 years of speech therapy, and the speech hasn't come, and then you do stem cells, and within 6 months to 1 year, speech comes. It is obvious that it is because of stem cells. So we have enough, enough data to show that when we do the PET CT scans, that there is a biological change occurring in the brain. There is a damage in the brain that's getting repaired. Now, giving speech therapy, how can you explain that giving speech therapy will repair the damage in the brain? We are giving stem cells in the fluid which is going to the brain, and that you can explain. The stem cells go and repair damage, which I showed you on the PET scan. But speech therapy done from outside cannot possibly go and repair the brain. So we are showing not only clinical improvement, but we are also showing improvement in the brain damage on the PET CT scans. Okay, that can only happen with the stem cell intervention. So we believe that stem cells works together with the rehab. Then Dado Wat says, so some of the insurance companies are not accepting stem cell therapy. I want to go for stem cells for a 6-year-old autistic child. But due to the huge amount, we are not able to do, although having medical insurance. Kindly guide us which insurance companies are registered. So now there are several companies. Many of the private companies are actually, so earlier, 10 years ago, no company was giving for stem cells. Now a large number of companies are giving for stem cells. And even the government insurance companies like New India Assurance and all, they've started a new insurance policy called copay. So there were 4 or 5 things not included in insurance, like stem cells, dental treatment, cosmetic surgery. All these things were not included for insurance. But now there's an insurance policy where there is a copay. That means you pay 50% and the insurance company pays 15%. And they have included stem cell in the copay. So if you write to us, then we can send you, because we have a separate insurance and a TPA help desk that we have a separate staff. They will write to you about, they will send you a list of all the companies that give insurance and those that don't. Kindly guide us which to be. So, okay. So you can, if you just go to our website, www.neurogynbsi.com, neurobsi.com, and through that, if you send us an email or if you just send us an email or a WhatsApp at our number, we will be able to send you that information. Now somebody says, sir, my son got seizures even after low fever. He had seizures twice this month. I want to know occurrence of seizures. I think I've just answered that question. I think this question I already answered, that low fever does cause convulsions, and there is always if there are seizures, there has to be a neurological reason. And the way to do it is to do an MRI of the brain and to look for the areas in the medial temporal lobe. That MRI is specifically done to look for neurological reason for epilepsy, and to do an EEG. The EEG will tell us exactly what the reason is. HBOT ozone therapy will be done once post. So somebody, I can't see the names here, but somebody asks, HBOT ozone therapy will be done once post SCT, or it has to be done performed regularly, like daily or once in a week, once in a month? No. So with our program, we have stem cell therapy, rehab, and 10 hyperbaric oxygen sessions and 10 ozone sessions. So what we have seen is that when we combine, we are using a combination. So the combination of stem cells, 10 HBOT, 10 ozone sessions, and 10 days of rehab, this works the best of all. You don't have to do it once a month on a regular basis. We are NRI, I think I've answered these questions. We are NRI, is there any repeat treatment or recurrent treatment? So no, this will depend on the PET CT scan. If it's mild or moderate, you don't have a recurrent treatment. If it's severe, we may have to do another treatment. ADHD treatment also will, yes, ADHD is also treated with stem cells, because ADHD is like a milder version of autism. And ADHD patients actually do the best of all. We get the best results in ADHD. How can we say the child is mild, moderate, or severe ADHD? Is it based on PET scan or based on feedback shared by parents, doctors, evaluation? No. The mild, moderate, and severe. The question, unfortunately, I can't see the name of who was asked, but your question is, how can we say that the kid is mild, moderate, or severe? Is it based on PET scan? Yes, it is based on PET scan. We do not classify as mild, moderate, or severe based on what the parents say. We even don't do it based on we do an evaluation, but we see the PET scan, because the PET scan is an objective test. It tells you facts as they are. So our classification is based on PET CT scan. Could you help me with the total approximate cost for 7 days and 15-day package on an average? So in a webinar like this, I normally don't discuss costs. I request you to kindly contact our hospital, send us an email, and we will tell you, because the cost, it's varied, you know, depends. We have different classes of accommodation. We have a general ward, we have a twin sharing where two people are in one room. There is a single room, there's a suite. So there are different kinds of things. Then you have a 7-day and a 15-day package. So there are different options. If you can email us or WhatsApp us, we'll be happy to send you all that information in writing. We'll send you everything. Dada Rao, it says, thank you for your valuable guidance. Thank you, Dada Rao. I think that sort of does it. I don't know if there's anything else. If there are any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Okay, I think there are a few other questions that. Okay. Deepak Soni says, sir, after stem cell, till when will you have to continue rehab? So that depends. It depends on till when there is an improvement. So it could be 3 months, 6 months, or a year, or even more than that. It's very simple. A child who can't speak, you give him speech therapy. Moment he starts speaking, you obviously will stop the speech therapy. You cannot go to a speech therapist with a child who is talking. Likewise for the other things, the hyperactivity, the behavioral therapy. So the rehab therapies continue till the time that the problem goes away, which is minimum of 3 to 6 months, and it could go up to 1 or 2 years. Anonymous attendee says there's a huge segment of autistic population who vehemently oppose a cure, saying that autism is part of neurodivergence. What do you say to such people? Well, I respect their views. Actually, I myself believe that autism is part of neurodivergence. I completely agree with that. Having said that, there are a lot of things that the autistic population cannot do. If suppose a child does not have speech, then he's not able to integrate into society. He's not able to communicate to other people, and we have to get that speech back. If you have a child with hyperactive behavior, we have kids who, they are head banging, they're biting themselves, they're scratching, they're aggressive, they hurt themselves, they hurt others. We have to find a solution to that. Okay, my question is very simple. Just like there's biodivergence, there is, we are all different, even physically. There are people who are tall, there are people who are short, there are people who are dark, there are people who are fair. But if I have a fracture of my leg, will I or will I not fix that fracture? Will I say, if I have a fracture of my leg, that, I want to be divergent, I want to walk with the rest of my life with a limp, or rest of my life I want to walk with a stick? Why should I do that? If I have a fracture, and if an orthopedic surgeon can fix it and let me walk on my feet, why should I have to spend a life on a wheelchair? Okay, so while I respect biodivergence, all I'm saying is, by giving stem cell therapy, we are able to get our children back into the mainstream, where now their biodivergence can be celebrated, where now their biodivergence can be recognized. All these children do exceptionally well. The stories I have of kids who, once they've done stem cell therapy, they're kids who, they've passed out of school, they've gone to college, they're doing wonderful jobs. You saw the 3 videos I showed. The child from America, Ganesh, he's standing first in class. First. Okay. From a child who was in a special school, he's topping his class. And, recently I met his father. He told me that child, for the first, it's a 100-year-old school, and no child has ever got full marks in Spanish. He was the first child to get full marks in Spanish. And today he's fluent in 5 languages. A child who could not speak is fluent in 5 languages. That's a celebration of biodivergence. But if you don't do stem cells and they cannot integrate into society, you can't see that biodivergence. Society recognizes the need to communicate, the need for appropriate social behavior. And once that happens, you can see miracles. So all I tell them is, I ask them a simple question. To anybody who says that, I ask you, if you had a fracture of the leg, would you celebrate your divergence by spending the rest of your time on a wheelchair? If not, then why do you want to deprive children with autism of the opportunity to repair their brain with their own cells. We are not using anything from the outside. It is their fundamental right that if there is a damage and if there is technology to repair the damage, that we should repair the damage. Madhu Verma says, can you please explain the one-time stem cell cost? So Madhu, I just repeated that you please email my house. And normally in a medical talk, I don't discuss costs. And the costs depend on, what class of accommodation you take, what services you take. So if you email or call us, we'd be very happy to share that. We share the costs in writing, so there is no confusion. You have everything in front of you. Anonymous attendee says, will SAT make a person with autism lose his or her savant skills or other special talents and abilities that the child has? No, not at all. In the more than 3,000 autism children and adults that we have treated, not a single child has lost any ability that they already had. Those who had savant skills actually, they actually improve in the expression of that. We are able to actually use that to good use. We are able to use those skills productively. So not a single child has lost a savant or any other skill that they had prior to the stem cell therapy treatment. So that is something you don't have to worry about at all. All right, I don't know. I can't see any other questions. If there's something, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I just want you to know that all those of you who have registered for this conference, you have an opportunity. You can actually set up a free of cost individual 1:1 medical consultation with me. You have to, where do they communicate? Can you give me a number, please? A number where they can communicate. Let me write it. No, but they won't be able to see it. All right, so I don't know if you can see that. Or where's that list? So that slide on your screen, it shows you an email, contact@neurogenbsi.com. And there is a number, +91 992 200 400. So you can reach us on this, and you can do a one-on-one consult with me that can it could be a 15-minute to a 30-minute consultation. That's at no cost at all, because very often parents don't like to discuss their children problems on a group or on a webinar. So at a time that's mutually convenient to us, we can set this up, and I'd be happy to answer all your questions in person. I can see your child we can do a video consult, and I'll be able to answer all your questions. So please make use of this opportunity. I think that's about it. Screen share बंद कर सकते हैं. All right, so I think there are no more questions. So I will, with your permission, end this webinar. I want to thank you all for attending this. I hope I was able to, clarify some of the doubts you had. And if there's anything more, I mean, this is not the end. You're welcome to, approach us. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Wish you all a good evening and a good night.